You said that now you feel like you've got to a place that it's your path. What was that switch for you that went from like, I don't deserve this, God, like I feel out of place, I'm lucky, to being like, no, actually now I see it as this was meant to be my path? Because I think a lot of people and a lot of our listeners will be there. Like a lot of people are like, they're making moves and maybe they're the first person in their family to go to college, or maybe they're the first person who started up a business and is an entrepreneur, or maybe one of our listeners is trying to break generational trauma and they're the first person to spot it. But then they all live in that space of like, can I do this? Like, am I the one to do this? And so what was it that made that switch from like, I'm not sure I'm the guy, but oh, it is my path?
It's the sum of all things leading up into that point. I think it's all the doubt. It's the imposter syndrome. It's the blessings that you can't really accept fully. And you listen to other people speak who are successful, or you see examples that you kind of feel connected to. Like, man, that kind of feels like me. Or what he just said or what she just said, I resonate with that. You know, I feel like that sometimes, you know. Other people who are looking at you saying, no, Mike, this is what you have. This is what you can be. This is what you are. Nah, that can't. No, that's too good. No, that ain't me. You know, your own presence in a situation where you have to step back and look at yourself and be like, am I this guy right now? Like, oh man, there's a room full of people who showed up because of something I'm doing, and they're in service or in support of my idea, my thing. Okay. That looks and feels like I'm the guy. Okay. I'm in the industry where, you know, the success of your work and your art has been, you know, dictated and validated by other people's opinions. And whether those opinions are factual or projected on you, from their own, individual perspective, I think it was a combination of all those things. And I've always been curious and walked towards how do I make myself better? What are the things that I need, the tools that I need in order to improve myself, the way I think, how do I maximize myself, you know? So from, I think, getting an executive coach, you know, who talks to executives all day and, you know, how to create healthy conversations, the right type of conversations to have as you're building a team around you. Cause, you know, as you know, it's not just us, you know, we have an entire team of people that surround us that help us achieve our dreams and get the big idea done. You know, a spiritual advisor, a spiritual coach that I have, who, you know, helps me do my energy work, my spiritual work, and help sift through the noise and find those things. And I think it wasn't until I had, you know, roles that challenged my spirit and myself in a real way that in the weight and where the attention was so loud that it was, you know, it was deafening, and it was, and I couldn't, you know, see clearly. And, you know, these are champagne problems. You know what I'm saying? You know that, like, you know, we're blessed. So, but the weight is so heavy, you know, and people sometimes think and they see what we have or what, you know, what we're doing. And it's like, oh, just be grateful, you know, or just, you know, what are you complaining about? You know, and, you know, most people wouldn't be able to walk, you know, a block in our shoes, you know, with this stuff. And I think it was, and you have moments where you resent things and you're angry at, you know, the feelings that you accumulate for not being clear or not understanding, you know, why there's a lot of whys, and you're not going to get all the answers, but you want to, you know, be able to get to a place where you're clear. So to answer your question, when did I decide? When did I feel like that? Maybe 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. You look at where your family has come from, and shit, look at your bloodline, you know, you look at, you know, your community, you're like, man, there's a cycle there from generation to generation that happens. When you get to yourself and you're like, man, can I stop this? Can I change this? I could do this. once you know better, you got to almost do better. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I refuse to ignore it. I refuse to see it an opportunity that I had to change things and act like it didn't exist. And I think that was the thing for me that I was like, nah, I gotta, if that's my purpose, if that's my path, is to just see it and I can see the pieces. And if I can just continue to do this, or if I stay down the pathway on that, and I might be able to make a big difference in my nephew's life or my future children's, my future grandchildren's life, I got to do that. Because there's been so many people that it wasn't the perfect storm for them to have that opportunity. It wasn't the right time in the world. Technology wasn't there. The resources, the right social conversations are being had for us to have these platforms and speak and be successful the way we are. You know, you gotta do it. And I think that was a big part of it, understanding my own mortality, and understanding, that, life isn't a forever thing. And I think that happens when you get older too. You know what I'm saying? Like, just turned 37 and it's like, wow, I vividly remember, 15. I vividly remember 21. I vividly remember 25, 30, and I used to look at 35, 37, like ancient, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh man, we're here. And it's like, you got to do what you got to do while you're here and make an impact. You got to fulfill yourself, whatever that may be, And I think so. Yeah. So that moment for me where it was like, okay, I can do this. Maybe a couple years ago, I think it was like right as I was stepping into directing Creed 3 and the weight of that and being the captain of the ship the first time, being captain of the ship I've made movies before, I've done that. I know what that's like, but I've never ever been the director, the captain of the ship. And I think that responsibility, that pressure that, I'm not a dad, but everybody's looking to you for the answer, for the solve, for the leadership. And I think that really thrust me into a mindset of leadership that I never quite had the opportunity to do before.
I mean, there's so much in that.
Sorry, I said a lot.
It's a great. I like it. I prefer it that way because I'm connecting all the dots as you're speaking. And there's so many things I want to unpack with that. One of the things that really resonated is this idea that you had to challenge yourself. You had to do something out of your comfort zone in order to even recognize that you could become, that you could be, and that you could develop. And often we're waiting to become before we take on the challenge, but it's the challenge that makes us become that person. And I think we resist even what you just said earlier about the opportunities, this idea that if you have opportunity, and there's an Eastern spiritual teaching which talks about if you have opportunities and you don't take them, that's a disservice to humanity
1000%.
Because they're opening up to you without your will sometimes, right? Like there's some of us, and we'll sabotage ourselves because we'll say, oh, well, I didn't ask for that. I didn't know that was for me. And so I love the idea of anyone who's listening or watching what Mike's saying. I love the idea of leaning into that opportunity that is opening up for you. And even if you don't have the skills and you don't have the talent yet, or you don't have all of the tools and the abilities, it's going to force you to develop them.